Hey everybody, what is up? Unrested back again, and today I'm following up with my video that I just posted on, I believe it was Friday. We had just heard that Shinzo Abe had been shot. Sadly, he did pass almost 43 minutes after I made that video. He passed, and it's sad to hear. Like I said, my prayers and my thoughts go out to his family, but it's also very confusing. Like, every channel I watched on YouTube, even the Japanese channels, and it was covered on Japanese TV like all day on that day. Everything I covered was not giving me any information. What happened? Why? You know, like we all understand he got shot. There's a million videos showing the full shooting, but why? What's behind it? So first of all, let's get into a bit of the nitty gritty. We're going to get into like some of the facts that I found out about this case and who exactly the shooter was. And I'm not going to name them because I don't really like to, promote people who kill. I don't want to promote like spree shooters and stuff like that. So we're just going to call him the shooter throughout this because I don't like to give these names, like a lot of solicitation out there. You can be for me or against me on that. I don't care. That's my policy. So he's giving a speech. He's out in Nara. The area that he's at, I've actually been to before. It's a pretty wide open area. I'm not sure what his security was doing. There's not a lot of good camera shots of who exactly was his bodyguards or security, but they failed miserably. Let's put it that way to begin with. Whoever was working as Shinzo Abe's bodyguards, security, whatever you want to call them, prime minister, ex-prime minister, safety patrol, you failed. You need to lose your job. Sorry, it sounds harsh, but you weren't doing your job. This man who shot him, first of all, number one, carried in a weapon that was all kinds of goofy looking. All right, it was a homemade makeshift jury-rigged shotgun with 3 barrels on it that could shoot 2 shots. First shot got off. Everyone looks around. If you check the actual videos, you'll see people looking around confused. Now, the civilians standing there, I can understand that. I would be confused too. I think maybe fireworks or a car backfiring. I wouldn't immediately think a gunshot. Now, in America, I would think if I saw or heard something like that go off, the security of anybody, even like a movie star, would jump on top of them ASAP. Anything I've ever seen, like even if it is just like a loud noise, they jump them and they're like, okay, I need to be killed first and protect this person. That's their duty, right? They stand around and look around too. His security, Shinzo Abe's security, is kind of like, oh, what could have that been? That's so crazy. What the heck? And then the second shot goes off, and that second shot also hits Shinzo Abe. He's been shot twice now, and finally his security kind of like jogs over and is like, oh, are you okay? Whoa, what happened? And it's like, are you like, this is like the best security money can buy? I mean, he's the highest level in politics you can be, and this is the best? Wow, somebody's losing their job after that. Like, look, I don't know who's responsible for giving orders to the lowers on the rank of security patrols within the politics of Japan. They need to be fired though. Like whoever the boss was behind that, that was some pretty poor protection. And I'm not trying to make a laughing matter of this. I'm just just stunned for words as to how to describe how badly they handled this. Now the poor guy's bleeding out on the ground. The dude who shot him, right away he's arrested. He's grabbed by people around him. He tried to run for a little bit, but I don't think he even thought he was going to get away. And right away his first statement by the people who grabbed him and put him in a hold was that he didn't do it because of political reasons. He didn't do it because he was against Abe. And I thought, wow, that is a really weird statement to make ASAP. If you're not against Abe's politics, then what is your motivation behind shooting this man? So I looked into it further. I had my wife translate some of the newspaper articles that I couldn't figure out because it got into much deeper explanations. These were complex explanations. So it all connects to a religion called Unification religion. If you don't know about this one, I'd probably say your best connection to it in your mind is if you've ever seen like on Discovery Channel or National Geographic or something like this, where it says like 1,000 people married together on the same day on the first time that they've ever met. This is unification, all right? This is how their system works. They pair people together and marry groups of them all together underneath the religion. And the master of this, something Moon, I forget what his first name is, but he's a man in South Korea who started this. South Korea has very deep Christian and Catholic roots. And this is not considered Christian or Catholic. They don't connect themselves to it at all. So don't blame any Christians or Catholics. I myself followed the Catholic Church throughout my whole life, and I would never see anything like this within Catholicism. I can tell you that. But this is like branched off from it. It's kind of like, you know how Branch Davidians were, where they were a branch of a branch of a branch. That's kind of what the Moonies are, as they're called, or the Unification Church, as they're called. And if you're wondering why they're called the Moonies, it's because the guy's last name was Moon, Moonies, whatever. Okay. This is the religion. And you're probably wondering, well, how does this play into the story? Was that guy part of this religion and he did it for that religion? Not necessarily. Okay. So getting into this guy's history who shot Abe. His dad and his grandfather owned a very rich business. Now, what the business was, they didn't say exactly in the articles that I read. Maybe we'll find out later or get more information later. Or maybe my Japanese just wasn't good enough. I'm more than willing to admit that. Nonetheless, it was a well-to-do business, and he was from a very rich family. The grandfather ran the business at first. When he died, he just died of old age. It was a consumption thing. His father takes over, and this is where tragedy really strikes, because the father dies only like a month or two later after the grandfather dies, and the company is left in shambles because there's nobody there to run the company. So what do? They don't know what to do. The mom is now taking care of a bunch of kids. She's got no financial support from the company because it's being tossed back and forth between executives. She's reaching out for help any way that she can. And who grabs her hand and tries to help her during this time? Good old religion. Now, I don't know what your thoughts are on religion. Personally, I think it can be really great basis for morals. It can be a really great straight and narrow for some people who need it. I have nothing against religion. In the past, I used to be a very angry atheist because I thought that was cool, but I've come to realize it's very arrogant for me to preach my ways when I'm against them preaching their ways. And I actually do have a little more spiritualism in my life these days. I'm not an atheist anymore. So I'm not Christian or hardcore Catholic or anything like that, but I'm not going to call myself an atheist anymore. So if you think I'm coming from a place of hating religion, that's not it. I do hate this religion, though. This one has done some pretty evil stuff. They took this woman by the hand and by the wallet as well, and they milked her for everything that her husband's business had worked for. They took every last penny. And you may wonder, like, oh, well, what for? Like, okay, so this is kind of how it works with the Church of Unification. They take someone in who's in a time of need. Like, let's just say you lost two main members of your family, and you're struggling to survive with, I think he had himself, a brother, and a sister, so 3 kids, a single mother in Japan who's a housewife with no job at the time. She's struggling. I mean, I do have a bit of sympathy for what she was going through at the time, but I think she left herself really open to be victimized by the church. And so she starts donating money because they say, oh, we've helped you out. You could give us a little something for helping you out. We're there in your time of need. And a lot of people, this isn't too odd to be like, oh, well, yeah, of course, I can throw a little money your way. The church has helped me out quite a bit. I don't see a big problem with that. A lot of churches ask for donations, but they're a little more pushy because they kept pushing for donations. And she kept giving and giving and giving and giving until finally all the money was stripped from the business. It goes bankrupt. It's under. Then they keep pushing. And they make her take out giant loans because she's someone who comes from the ownership of a big business. So she can do that. In Japan, if you have like a big business or you have a background where your family was very prolific and well known for their business attributes, it's easier to take out large sums of money. And that's what this woman does. She starts to take out more and more and more. And then everything gets screwed up in these kids' life. They're out of a house. Okay? They're out of money. They're down to the point where they're like homeless. They can barely even buy food. But hey, Church of Unification, they're there. Guess what? They offer them, like housing for single mothers who don't have a job and say, oh, look, we're still helping you out. Here we are. I mean, you try to forget that we put you in this position to begin with, but hey, maybe take out another loan for us. So, I mean, this woman runs her family into financial ruin. And I'm not out there to blame her for this. This is definite manipulation by the church on someone who was going through a deeply dark time in their life. Sadly, she drug her kids through the mud with this, and they took on all the bad aspects of this. Like, they took on the debt. In Japan, a child can inherit debt from their mom or dad. I think that can kind of happen in some states in America, but the rules are very different. Like if you can come forward with a death certificate, at least I know in Florida, I know the rules in Florida, it changes state to state, but within Florida, if you can come forward with a death certificate, they do actually have to write off those debts and you don't have to inherit them. So you can also have the parent declare bankruptcy and then you don't take on those debts. And some of those debts just can't carry over. Like if your mom takes out a giant credit card debt, usually the company can't pursue you. But in Japan, they can't. They can keep pursuing you forever. And all laws are national. There's like national laws for when it comes to debt. So now this guy is taking on the debt of his mother. His brother is too, and so is his sister. His brother gets so overwhelmed, and he's somebody who is dealing, they didn't completely describe what he was dealing with, but he had some kind of mental disability as they described it. Now, what exactly this mental disability is, we don't know. They just said like a gray zone mental disability. That can be a lot of different stuff. So I'm not going to try and allude to any certain, diagnosis. I'm not a doctor. But that would mean he's struggling more than your average person, and his brother commits suicide. I mean, how sad can this story get, right? Grandpa dead, father dead, mother in bankrupt, brother commits suicide because he's floundering in all the debt that his mother has incurred. Now it's the sister. She's barely struggling to survive, living in low rent apartments, working a million jobs just to make ends meet. And so is the man who's now about 40 years old, who is the eventual shooter of Abe. Now you're wondering, like, well, so wait, is Abe part of this church? Is Abe... It's a weird situation, guys. A lot of people around the world have been connected to this church in the sense of like speaking up for them by like talking about, oh, they've done so many good works, which, okay, great, but good works don't cancel out bad works. I mean, I don't, I never understand this aspect of like people coming forward and to speak about how great their church was, okay? You know, the Catholic Church has done great things for some society too, but they've also had child molesters within the ranks of their priests. So let's not ignore that, okay? As a Catholic, I can say this, okay? Same thing with the Church of Unification. I mean, this situation with manipulating the mother and taking millions, like literally millions of dollars from her has happened over and over again throughout the country and throughout Korea and even in America, because Mooney actually came to America for a while, the founder of this unification religion, and he started to do that to big people in America, and it spread to some politicians there. But he actually had to leave America because he was deported for being arrested, because when he was starting to gather all this money from all the donations he was getting, he never paid his taxes, and you don't do that in America. He went to jail for 11 months and then got kicked out. So you kind of have an idea of what a scumbag this guy is. He's all about the green, and pretending to be nice, okay? That's, you know, the worst kind of religious extoller, the worst kind of evangelist. Imagine the greediest of greediest evangelists, and that's the leader of this church. And he's got all kinds of like big politicians on his side for this church, talking about all the great things he's done. Donald Trump is one of these people who spoke up for him and said like, this church is so great, I love it. And yeah, I mean, you can look this stuff up online. I mean, there's literally like videos of the speeches other people have done. And Shinzo Abe was another person who stood up for this church and wanted to talk about how great they were, all the great things they've done. And this really angered this guy because he had only seen this church tear apart his family, okay? His first plan was to kill the highest ranking members in Japan for the Church of Unification. He started to put together a plan and realized it would probably be impossible to get all those people in one place together to shoot them or bomb them or do whatever, okay? You know, I'm trying to reason the workings of a madman here, so bear with me, okay? He couldn't do that. So his next best thing was, who's the most powerful person I can get in an area where I can take a shot? Shinzo Abe, all right? He's out of being ex-prime minister. He doesn't have the top-notch security with him anymore. He's going around giving speeches because we're getting close to another election day where new Congress members are hired for the different parties of the Diet. If you don't know how Japan's politics work, I'm not going to try to describe it here. It's very complicated. But let's just say we're near an election period here in Japan. And so he was going around talking about his favorite members and who you should vote for. This guy knew he could get the good shot on Abe during this time, and he took it. And his reason for doing so was because of Shinzo Abe's connection to the Church of Unification. Now, all this that I just said, it has been admitted by this guy. It has been researched by the investigators within this. We can pretty much go with this as a hard fact. I'm sure there's probably more details we'll learn later. And like I said, if we come back to this in 5 years and I've gotten some stuff wrong, sorry, I'm going with all the information I have now as of, making this video. Now, I have a friend, and I'm not really allowed to talk too much about what he does because he works in security. And how do I best describe something without describing it? Private matters within Japan, but let's just say he's worked within security and securing very important aspects of Japan. And he has all the qualifications to do this. It takes like a lot of like checks and balances and connections to like the American military if you're working from the Gaijin side. That's what this guy has, and that's as deep. I already feel like I'm going too deep, but that's as deep as I can go into the description of his job. And talking with him on this, he said, I feel like Shinzo Abe must have done something to really trigger someone up high up in politics that they let this guy get away with the shooting, because he said, I have never seen a security service do such a poor job of protecting somebody so high up. He said, working security myself and working with the Japanese police, those guys have their shit in order. They are hardcore about their job. And I think you could say this about Japanese in a lot of jobs. They're hard workers, guys. I'm not ever going to mock the Japanese for how damn hard they work and how obedient they are to rules and following the rules. If there's a rule within a system made, they follow that rule within the system. And that's why a lot of things work so congruently within Japan. You have an insurance claim, you file your insurance, they give you the money because the insurance said, if this happens, you get money. There's no arguing back and forth about, like, is it a scam? Are you sure? Can you prove you're really on that medication? It's rules are rules in Japan. And of course, he knows the rules they had to follow because he's worked within at least the police side of Japan. So he was really surprised to see this go down. He said, somebody told the security to make a hole. And he's saying, when he's saying they told security to make a hole, that means like let somebody have a shot at going after Abe. That somebody higher up had a hand in this to let Abe be an open target. And he said, like, look, I'm completely making assumptions here, and you're welcome to take these or toss them out as you hear them. But I'm just giving you my 2 cents from my position of what I've worked in. And this is really sketchy. Like, I can't believe, number one, his security was that crap on the day of this shooting. Number 2, I can't believe they allowed anybody to even get that close to him. Like, this guy pretty much snuck up like right behind him and got him. And if you look at the video, you'd be surprised how close he gets. Like, in America, first of all, they wouldn't have somebody standing in the middle of the street like Shinzo Abe was. Some of these politicians stand up on the top of a van in the middle of the street, which is, I don't know how that's a safety measure that hasn't been stopped before. But he was a sitting target, more or less, for this guy. And my friend says, I just don't see why they would have let him do this, especially with the fact that this didn't go from no threats at all, being beloved by the country. He had his haters. He was a supporter of Yasukuni Shrine, which is a shrine dedicated to the World War II heroes who died and also had comfort women. You can research that yourself, but a lot of people are angry about that within Japan, so they're not a big lover of Shinzo Abe, even when he was prime minister. I always say president. And so he had his haters. So he's like, this isn't just from out of nowhere. All right, he's had threats before. His life has been threatened before. Every prime minister gets threats. So this isn't like some nobody within the diet who's never gotten any kind of threat before, or some, person everybody loves, like a movie star or something, okay? This is somebody who had been targeted. So why would you ever like let down your guard, let down your security, or leave a hole this wide? He's like, it's unheard of. So there has been some people that the media has marked as being a possible conspiracy theory aspect of this whole plot to shoot Abe, which, look, I'm taking this as objectively as I can. I don't like conspiracy theories. I like to hear about them. I like to swirl them around in my brain and think about, wow, that sounds like a really wild one. The dinosaurs built the pyramids, but I don't start with the conspiracy theories is what I'm trying to say. I don't start by going off of that and pushing aside the evidence we already have. We already have evidence of why this guy was most likely targeting Abe, and he even said so himself, that it was his connection to the Unification Church. But is this outside source really possible who let there be an opening for Abe to be shot? The man's reason for shooting Abe is made clear. But him getting a chance to do it is not. Why was he given a chance to do this? Why was this so wide open for him to take this shot? That is still very strange, and hopefully something that the police are still investigating to this point. That's where we are at right now. I would love to hear what you guys have to say. You guys always have the best conversation. I'd like to give a shout out to a Norway caller I had today, just as I was about to make this video, who also gave me some input on that. He actually asked the person who called it if it's okay to like talk to me or call. You guys, you can always contact me and call me and talk to me and ask me about anything you see online on my videos. However you get in contact with me is fine. Like even if you see me in Japan and say hi on the street, I always say hi. I try to be as talkative as I can with my viewers, because your viewers make the channel. You don't exist without them, and that's one part of the roots of making this channel. I always want to, what would you say, admire, make sure I keep in check, never lose my head over. I don't know. You understand what I mean? I always respect everybody's opinion, even if it's something where I don't have the same opinion or it's a criticism of my own take on the channel. I'm always listening, and hopefully that's something I've evolved over time. And I'd love to hear what your opinion is over time of hearing this story from part 1 to part 2 now, and what exactly happened with Shinzo Abe. I'd love to hear what your take is on the setup. I noticed my sound was kind of going in and out last time. Trying to get that in check. I kind of got the camera balanced a little better, but the lighting is still a little weird. But, with time. Until next time, I will talk to you again real soon. If you want to hear more, be sure to check me out on Inksmith, my other channel, where I will be doing a report on a despicable person known as Davy Vanity. Until next time, have a great rest of the day. I have been Unrested.